your specific person is literally manifesting you right now. So in today's video, we're going to allow your specific person and your future self do all of the work so you can make your manifestation absolutely effortless. And yes, you might be asking, how are we even able to do this? But your future self and your specific person can do absolutely everything to bring your manifestation to you, no matter where you're at, no matter what the circumstances are. We just have to focus on the outcome that we want and understand that our current version of ourselves and the current state that we are in are probably unable to resolve any problems around us, but that's okay because the version of you that already has done it knows exactly how to overcome those problems. So think about it in this way. When we're manifesting, most of the time we focus on what we want. That's the first rule in the law of assumption. But as we begin to move towards what we desire, we encounter other things that seemingly work against us. And it's at that point in time that we begin to put all of our focus away from the outcome we want and towards the problems, and then we end up in a cycle because then we accidentally focus on the problems, but then we accidentally manifest more of the problems because that's all that we're focusing on. We feel as if we have to overcome or bounce over, jump over any hurdle that comes in our way. But what if I were to tell you that's actually not what you have to do at all? When you're seeking or moving towards something, in this case, your specific person, all you have to do is focus on your end state. And this is where your specific person and that future version of yourself are going to overcome the problems for you. If at any moment in time, you are just focusing on the goal you want, but then when problems arise, you push them to the side, knowing your future self will be able to solve them, then they will be able to solve them. Because whenever you're approaching your manifestation or any circumstance, any outcome from a particular state, you can only access the knowledge that comes from that state. And so think about wanting your specific person to text you or call you or to go on a date with them, to marry them. If your only focus is on that, then you're going to assume the state of that person. And so that person who has already achieved exactly what you desire knows exactly how to overcome any circumstances or any barriers that arise on the path, considering they've already overcame them. And so what you want to do with your manifestation is just know that there is an answer to every single problem and that you'll be able to resolve it regardless of what it looks like on the surface. The way I like to imagine it is to imagine a timeline from the previous version of you to the future version of you, because technically they're all taking place simultaneously right now. So in a very real sense, you are already with your specific person, you're already married, you've already had your dates, you already had your 10-year anniversary being married. If that's exactly what you want, that's the outcome you can create. But if you think about walking this timeline, you'll understand that as we move closer to the outcome we want, problems will seemingly arise. So let's say that you want to text your specific person, but you're 1,000 miles away. So normally what we do is we accidentally focus on the 1,000-mile problem and try to overcome that. So then we take our focus off of them messaging us, them going on a date with us, things like that, and we focus on solving the problem. But in the current state, we don't actually have access to the knowledge that's able to be used in order to solve the problem. But if you keep focusing on the version of yourself that has already done it and the outcome that's already happened, not only you are waiting in the imagined future for you to get to that point, but your specific person is also waiting there with that future version of yourself, expecting you and wanting to do everything that they possibly can in order to get there. And at first, this may not make intuitive sense, but I would imagine it's the same way that you've solved basically any problem that you've ever encountered in your entire life. Because for me, that's exactly what I like to do when I'm trying to manifest anything. I focus on the end state. So let's say I'm manifesting for a text. I would focus on the text, and if there were any circumstances, I would know it doesn't matter to me because I'm not the one that has to solve them. And honestly, I want this to be something that you act out right here and right now because it's less understood when it's said as to when you actually do it. So just to reiterate, you don't have to focus on any circumstance that occurs in between the path from where you're at to your specific person. You just have to know at some point a version of yourself will be able to understand how to overcome it. And you can actually use this with any manifestation that you want, whether it's wealth, whether it's a specific person, whether it's a car, literally anything, health. Anything can be solved by this future version of yourself that has already done it. So I know a lot of people are probably going to be asking, but what do I physically do? So what you physically do is focus on what you want. So what is it that you want right here and right now? So maybe it's a text. Maybe it is that call. Maybe it is that date from your specific person. What is it that you want? Think about that. And then anytime any sort of circumstance comes up, let it go. That future version of yourself will be retroactively solving them as you move along the path, because your mind will be able to understand how to actually do it from that state. You cannot see from outside of the state that you're already in. So if you're beginning and you see all these circumstances, you're coming from a state of being single, or a state of not being texted, or a state of not being or dating your specific person. And so how is that version of yourself ever going to understand how to solve the problem, how to act pursued, and how to be chased? We have to assume the state of already having it, and that retroactively solves the problem. Because as you act as someone who is pursued or chased, then you're going to immediately start to act that out. And then the problems will cease to exist because they never existed to that version of you that has already achieved it. What you're basically doing is taking the intelligence and the knowledge from that state version of yourself and applying it right now at this current moment. Because as well as this, your state, so the version of yourself that's already with your specific person, remember, there are a million and a trillion different ways to get to the outcome that you want. Your state and your mind and your body and your higher self is infinitely splitting into a bunch of different quantum states to create infinitely the outcome that you want. So yes, there's an infinite amount of realities, an infinite amount of ways from where you are to your specific person, but we won't be able to even see one of them if we're not in that state. But as always, let me give you a specific example of this, of someone actually trying this out and then manifesting exactly what they wanted. So here's another message or success from an email coaching session in which they wrote, "Great news. There has been so much positive movement since I last emailed you. We've been talking quite literally all day, every day. One of us typically falls asleep, and then we just continue talking the next day, and then they go on to even more successes." And the reason I'm bringing this specific success up is because think of how often that they're speaking to their specific person. They wrote quite literally all day, every single day. And they had just as many circumstances in the past as any particular person would have. But the focus then is of the end state, and that's exactly what they were doing. They were deciding to be the individual in their end and letting go of or pushing aside any problem they feel would be in their end state that would impact their ability to get there. Because they knew through our coaching that any particular situation, any particular circumstance, anything that they feel would be in their way can be solved by that future version of yourself. And I know we might not explicitly know this information, but I think we all intuitively know it. If you were to look back at anything you've ever succeeded in, any goal you've achieved, and anything you've manifested, I would imagine that this is the exact pathway you took. You didn't worry about the circumstances and you didn't let them get in your way. You embraced them and knew that if you continued focusing on what you want and moving forward in the best way possible, so aligning with the state, that the problems immediately would just resolve themselves. It's kind of like the idea that if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it actually make a sound? And the answer in quantum physics is actually no, it doesn't. It's all up to this observer and up to this state of consciousness. So your reality is no different. So yes, in a quite literal way, I am saying the only reason problems exist and the only reason they feel hard to overcome is because we're focusing on them and trying to solve them. But in that essence, we become someone who has problems that needs to be solved, and then we just continuously manifest that. And so as an ode to this success story, I want you to comment down below as an affirmation: I am texting my specific person literally all day, every day, or some type of affirmation that aligns with that. Because when successes like this occur, they seemingly start to occur more likely in the ways that they occurred in almost all of my other coaching sessions. So why can't you be a part of that as well? As well as this, make sure to comment any questions, any thoughts, any successes, any worries that you have in regards to the manifestation process down below. Or if you wanted to send me a personal question or a personal success, just something that you didn't want to post publicly, head over to kyleaugustcoaching.com. Thank you so much for liking this video. Thank you so much for watching today. Thank you so much for subscribing, and I'll see you in my next video tomorrow.